Awesome. We're on.
Perfect.
So how have your past 3 weeks been?
Fine, busy. Just too much work, too much other stuff, not enough actual money. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
Trying to get a couple other video idea projects going, but those aren't going as well as I'd like. At least in terms of
Same thing's going.
Yeah, at least in terms of like, I'd like to have them done by now, but probably another week or two away. Mostly because the two I really want to get done, I'm still just re-editing script and want to get made into little video cartoons, but I gotta bug one of my animator buddies, figure out how much he's gonna make me pay him. Because fuck doing it myself.
Yeah. Nothing's free in this world. Labor costs money.
I know, right? Skills cost money. Shit. Wish I had skills. Maybe I'd have more money.
Memes through MS Paint. Okay.
So, what did you want to start with here?
Well, I thought you were going to take the lead because you wanted to really discuss football. Yeah.
Oh, well, I was going to build off of the Trudeau article if you wanted.
Sure, I'll read out.
I feel like it all sort of fits under the same kind of umbrella, at least.
Okay.
At least from my angle.
Okay, so it's coming from this feminist website called Mary Claire. I'm not too sure what I'll read this.
It's just Mary Claire is pretty just standard feminist ridiculousness. It's like I gotta find a set of analogies that aren't Christian because I know you're Christian, right?
Yeah.
Of some flavor or other. Yeah, I gotta find a set of analogies that aren't that because my typical go-to is like, oh yeah, that's pretty much just like the Vatican Times or something.
how about it's degenerate trash?
Yeah, because like it is objectively as in my opinion, objectively as incorrect as like most theologically based perspectives on the world, but it's clearly more harmful to society. So, like,
I mean, it's weird because apparently, according to Mary Claire, that's the #1 article on Mary Claire. I've never heard of this website before, and apparently, Justin Trudeau's article, he writes in this magazine, I suppose, on my Meg. It's already #1. Yeah, I don't know what to. I don't know what that says about the feminist movement or what that says about Canadians or whoever the audience is for this crap. So the article is called "Why I'm Raising My Kids to Be Feminists." Exclusive essay from MaryClaire.com. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau opens up about wanting his sons to, quote, escape the pressure to be a particular kind of masculine that is so damaging to men and to the people around them, unquote. No, man, I think it's all about that toxic masculinity, all about that, mansplaining, man-spreading bullshit. Oppressive patriarchy. You just gotta tone down your masculinity. You gotta listen more, feel more, cry more. I don't know.
And this is sort of why I thought it would tie well into the football thing I wanted to talk about, because okay, so there's an article going around that I commented on earlier today on just like one local page, some local news page sharing something about obesity rates up like 40% or something ridiculous. Wow. And so I just posted a little infographic I have. I guess I'll go share on my Minds page whenever I get a chance here later. But it's maybe I'll do that on my phone right now. It's just an infographic of the of participation in youth sports since 2010. It's like, or 2013 maybe. It was like a very short window of time and very substantial drops in youth participation in sports. And I think feminism has a lot to do with this, and the infantilization of sport, where a lot of the things that you needed coaches to do, a lot of the sort of disciplinary parenting that you need a coach to do in order to get his team to be a team. A lot of those tools get handcuffed by coaches in certain communities because the communities are just nuts. Like I saw an article last year about a coach getting fired for making a player do extra conditioning as discipline because he was just fucking around for practice. And it's like, no, you need to do that to kids. Like that's a necessary part of their development. Like you can't beat them. I get that. And I've seen all the studies on that having negative correlations, but you need to teach these kids like some self-control and some self-discipline. And there's no better way to do that than through like enforced fitness. And that's in the decline. And then we're like, why aren't there as many people being fit? It's like, cause you're running fewer miles. Like, and that's outside of just the day-to-day life of people staring at their phones more than they used to. Like, so I feel like it's all a big circle. You act in accord with what you believe, and feminism is a totalitarian set of beliefs that wants to take over everything that you think. So of course it's going to influence the way that you act in every way, which is why they all look the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to me because I played ice hockey since I was, I'd say in early elementary school, like kindergarten or grade 1 around that time. Just ever since I was really little. And, I stopped during high school because I had to focus a little bit more on where I was going to go for university. So I took some extra business courses and whatnot. But, I played football and I played rugby and I did a little bit of wrestling. Through high school, I did quite a lot of wrestling and hockey. And what just struck me about it is that, you do need a certain guiding hand, which is what a coach is. A coach isn't there to be a dictator to you. A coach is there to help you be the best at what you want to be. So if you are a runner and the coach is telling you to run laps and you're frustrated about running laps, I mean, that's kind of what you do. If you're in football and you're, trying to improve your arm strength and your coach thinks that you're dicking around and he gets you to do push-ups and you're pissed off about that, well, actually, that's kind of the point. The weird thing that I just find nowadays is that people do not attempt to differentiate between the different kinds of punishments. There's a punishment that's sadistic and it's intended to harm its victim. And the second kind of punishment is where someone actually learns something or gets something out of it, right?
There's punishment. There's punishment for the punishee and punishment for the punisher.
Yeah,
and you got to identify which it is. Just the engine that seems pretty obvious that sports, maybe individual sports can be like this as well. Actually, I'm sure they can be. Come to think of it, maybe they might even be better for it, but because of the one-on-one nature of it. But to me, a decent, not like you don't even need a good coach. You only need a decent coach to be able to replace, like, in a large part, not entirely, but in large part, replace the father figure that stats show is so essential to preventing crime down the line and delinquency. Like single parent households are the number one, the number 1 or 2 cause of crime, and or source, maybe not cause. And I think that if you can get a decent coach, doesn't even have to be a male coach, it just needs to be a decent coach in that coaching type environment, will the adult ages of growth. Like, to me, you should almost make subsidies dependent on participation in sport, like just as that replacement for that discipline that because you need a parent, like they don't always have to be the same parent. They often do wind up being the same parents, but you need the parent for discipline and like the good cop, bad cop relationship. And if you only have one parent, it's especially when it's mothers, it seems more often than not, they only get good cop.
Well,
at least when that happens, they seem to suffer from it more. Whereas that doesn't happen as often when there's at least two parents around. I think that
exactly. I mean, yeah. I mean, the thing that I find kind of annoying is when the left keep feminism, which I don't understand the purpose of, when they try to blur the lines between the genders, like stating that there is no difference between the genders. I mean, why do you care about women's equality if men and women are the same? Why do you care about, anything, to the power difference between men and women if they're all the same? They're either not the same and therefore in some respects unequal, or they are the same and therefore are already equal and you've got nothing to complain about. And, this kind of leads to this. I mean, they take this philosophy to the extreme, to be celebrating single motherhood. And, also, I honestly think that it does have some ties to the abortion issue, which I think we can maybe get to a little later or now if you prefer.
I'll heads up on the abortion issue just because I know there's going to be some numbers that I'd like to pull up that I won't have access to right now. But just circling back on the on sort of the sports to feminism to parenthood issue, like as much as I see Islamic theocratic totalitarianism as probably the second worst form of governance in the world after North Korea, although it's probably a pretty good coin flip. I'm not even sure on which is worse. But as bad as that ridiculous gender segregationist totalitarian ideology is, I sort of suspect the male and therefore father demonizing ideology that much of feminism is would, if allowed to actually govern unquestioned as it would love to, it would provide a much worse society within like a generation. Because like in an Islamic theocracy, in that community, the young males still have father figures. Their father figures are just guiding them down a hero's journey path that makes them identify their place in life as being one where they have to do some act of extremism. Whereas in a fatherless area, they aren't led to anything, and just it becomes a like war is the escalation of violence. It just becomes a war, a generational escalation of violence between delinquents, because you get 20-year-olds who can now take over the streets, take over their communities, because there's no father figures around, because they've all been criminalized. And then the 17-year-olds, to take it from the 20-year-olds, have to be more hardcore than the 20-year-olds. And the 15-year-olds, by the time they're 16, need to outdo the 17-year-olds. And that's what you see in the inner cities of America right now. Like, probably my favorite show ever is The Wire. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Shit. I mean, I've been told to see it many times because I've been told that
Man,
love it. It would change my way of thinking and whatnot. And I actually do want to see it. But
it's phenomenal, and it just perfectly illustrates the evolution and maintenance of these of the crime and ghettoization of the inner cities, especially Baltimore, because that's where it's based. But it sort of just to sort of spoil the sort of theme of the show. I won't spoil any of hopefully this will hook you in more and I won't get more interested. But season 1, pretty much episode 1, season 1, Random Detective is like there's a local gang going around that's getting away with shit because we're not paying attention, and no one believes them. They're like, no, it's all the Russians and the Chinese. There's no locals. They're not organized enough. They're just a bunch of kids. And he's like, I don't know about that, man. And so they start following this gang around. So season 1 is kind of like discovering the local gangland world, how they like the corner life, kind of like just selling drugs in the corner and avoiding cops and the cat and mouse game that is. And then season 2 is expands to the docks and how they get the product in and out of the city and in and out of the country. So you get kind of see how that works. And then season 3 is the money, where the money goes, because there's just so fucking much money in drugs. And like there's fucking millionaires in the ghetto living in shitty ass piss smelling apartments. It's fucked. But so how the money gets in and out of town. So that's season 3. No, season 2, sorry, it was Money in and Out of Town. Season 3 is where the money goes, and it's like buying businesses, black market businesses to launder the money, buying off politicians, how the politicians are trying to undermine the criminals, while at the same time taking money from the criminals' businesses, and just ridiculousness in that world of politics. And then season 4 and 5 is sort of like how the gang that you've kind of established in the first 3 seasons gets usurped by the next generation of gang that's just like a step more hardcore than they were. And how they recruit the kids from the local high schools, because the high schools are kind of shit and the whole culture is kind of vilifies success in that field. So it's a phenomenal show. When I was at university before football one season, every day was pretty much 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. nothing but football. Football and 8, and that was it. It's fucking awesome. Best time of my life. But then from 10 till about midnight every day, all I do is watch The Wire. I finished the whole season, and the night I finished the season finale of season 5, I watched the season premiere of season 1, because I was just like, I need more. I gotta go. Like, it's fucking so good. Anyway, I'll stop hyping that show and dragging us off the tangent, but I do feel like it's sort of relevant, and just especially going back to the football and feminism thing, like, and the politics that I wanted to step into with the whole stupid taking a knee bullshit. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that at all.
Shit. I mean, the left-wing media completely hyped the Trump reaction to it. What Trump does, and I understand that Trump was once a Democrat, so they should expect Trump using some of their tactics when Trump. And then, usually what Trump does is he exaggerates something that he's going to do, and then he's going to do like a mod what he said he was going to do. But the Republicans' base is typically happy either way, because in their eyes, it was better than what they had gotten for the past 5 or so decades. And it's such a thing, like, saying that, wouldn't it be nice if the owners fired one of those sons of bitches? And he just says shit like that, and then the media is like, oh no, he's take away their First Amendment rights. And what I find weird, they turn his suggestions into like demands, and it's like, no, he was like, I think this would be nice from my partisan angle, not that's like what you guys would do. Not him.
Like with the. Like, I don't know. I don't remember what Obama's position was on the Christian Baker, whether she should get fired or not. But I know plenty of people on the left were immediately like, "Oh, well, of course she should lose her job." And it's like, well, that's all Trump's doing. It's a pretty similar thing. Like, I mean, these players aren't sitting out plays to protest; they're just kneeling during the anthem, which in itself is a weird form of protest if your goal is to show disrespect. Like. I don't know. That
Yeah,
just
I mean, it's just weird.
I hate to love it
Yeah,
as
I
always
mean,
fuck. Like I'm pretty sure that is what's the term? Fealty. That's what that is.
hmm.
Like displaying fealty to a superior. I'm going to kneel before my higher ups. And it's like, well, that's good.
Well, I remember just, browsing the mayonnaise on Facebook. I remember there are a few folks who observed they're saying, haha, Donald Trump tricked Democrats into giving him the knee,
Yeah, I've seen that.
bowing before him.
Yeah. And like,
I mean, it's so stupid just because humans are creatures who tend to rely a lot on symbolism, but symbolism sometimes gets exaggerated to a degree which comes beyond the
more importantly than that, it gets hijacked, or like people take part in symbolism that they don't fully understand. Like I'm pretty sure Kaepernick has a pretty good idea of why he was taking the knee.
because
And
he wanted attention because his record is
well,
shit.
yeah, but like beyond that, I think I think originally he was just upset, and then somebody called him out on it, and he's like, "Oh, I was protesting," and then he just
Yeah.
got kind of sucked into the whole thing. That's sort of what I suspect. I don't have any reason to actually believe that, but the like I'm sure if you asked him like why are you taking a knee, I'm sure he'd give you a reasonable 3 or 4 paragraph thing. But whether or not the facts in
Are you really sure about Colin Kaepernick?
I'm pretty sure he can give you an
I think his
he can give you an
IQ
answer.
is lower than that of a fucking cucumber.
I don't think his answer would be like it if you fact checked it. I don't think it would be a reasonable answer, but I think he would give you an answer of like 2 paragraphs where all the sentences made sense and it was a coherent idea. If you went and asked everybody else who was taking a knee, I'm not sure. Like, I'd be willing to bet 80% of them are taking a knee because Trump's an asshole, and that's like the extent of their protest. Which
That's exactly what it is. But
and beyond that, I bet most of them are like, I'm to show solidarity. And it's like that's basically saying like all my friends jumped off the bridge. I don't know, man. Seemed like a good idea.
yeah, I mean, the problem is that I think Ben Shapiro addressed this with Don Lemon and a few other folks on CNN. He said, if the media would stop taking Trump's attacks seriously on them, stop fact checking Trump's attacks on the media, and instead fact check the stories that they're writing, then Trump's attacks would have no more impact. They have an instinct to just a compulsive instinct to protect themselves.
Yeah.
From any and all slights or perceived slights.
It's the hypocrisy is super enraging. Did we just get disconnected? Oh no, that was weird.
Yeah.
Sound just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is just super frustrating, especially around Trump, where it's like fucking all these guys are taking a knee. I bet if you went and asked all those guys, like, would you shake the hand of a man who won an award with Rosa Parks for their work with the inner cities? Would you shake such a man's hand? I bet most of they'd all be like, somebody, you asking me if I'd like show respect to somebody who was awarded alongside Rosa Parks? Of course I'd show that person respect. And then he'd be like, oh, well, that's Donald, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I know reality sort of sucks, but this is what we got.
Yep, and I mean, this is just magnified a hundredfold in Canada, because right now what I'm doing is I won't disclose the post-secondary institution where I'm at right now, but I'm taking an introduction to journalism course, and there's a journalist from I won't disclose the network she works for either. No, it's a she. But she was talking about how she was kind of trying to drag us along a little bit on her little spiel when she was saying, well, what were some interesting events that happened this week? And then some, this was about 2 weeks ago, and some guy said, Trump's comments about wanting to fire NFL players. And she said, that's right. And you know what? tend to get all hung up on the Second Amendment, but what's the amendment that guarantees an American's right to free speech? Some guy says, that's right, and that's what we the press have to protect against Donald Trump. You have to fight him every step of the way. I'm just thinking in my head, you're in Canada, okay, and all the news that you get, you're in Canada. All the news that you get about American news comes from your affiliates in the U.S. Do you really not fact check your affiliates at all? Do you literally just read their shit and just take it word for word? Do you not question anything? Is that not your job as a journalist? Of course I kept silent because I wanted her to go on. I wanted her to continue her, nonsensical spiel. I wanted her to continue her idiocy, but then she said, no, okay, that's it, guys. Let's move to another story.
Next time that sort of thing comes up, you should ask, well, during the election, Trump got like 80% negative press or more. Like, you should even look up what it is, because I'm sure it's more than 80%. But he got almost exclusively negative press. And then he went and won. So, as a journalist, how much negative press do you think you need to provide before he loses any credibility or flow, whatever term you want to stick in at the end there? Because it certainly doesn't seem to be working. Like, whatever the tactic is, it's clearly not like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, can we please, like, I'll even agree with you that he's not that good on a whole bunch of shit, but can we please talk about that for a minute instead of how he, a Democrat awarded beside Rosa Parks and Muhammad Ali, how that man is a Nazi? Oh, by the way, all his kids married Jews, but he's a Nazi. Like, what the fuck? You know how hard it is to have all your kids marry Jews? You know how few Jews there are?
Yeah, I mean, you almost have to kind of go looking for them in the bushes. I mean, I get it. In New York, apparently they were plentiful. I remember when I was and still in high school, I think I was in grade 10 or so, I was in the school band, so we went on a band trip to New York City. And I remember we were going through the 9/11 memorials, and I remember seeing so many Jews around. I was thinking, we never see any of them in Canada. I almost want to
Montreal.
grab them. One of them, Montreal, of course. I almost wanted to grab one of them and shake them and kind of like feel them up from head to toe and be like, "Oh my goodness, you're real."
I didn't even have to go to Israel to find you.
But I just don't see any in my day-to-day life. And so, when it comes to a lot of this anti-Semitism, allegations I hear, I mostly see them coming from the left. I don't ever really see them coming from the right. And by the way, I don't consider the alt-right even part of the right. It might sound elitist to someone who's not really tuned in on what the alt-right truly is, but
I feel like just to avoid layman confusion, I'd maybe just go with the conservative distinction.
Okay, so
I don't know if there's something about the term conservative that you're not a fan of, but
well, the alt-right, as I understand it,
I feel like all these terms are sort of meaningless at this point. Like, to somebody who's in the progressive communist-ish left, everybody who isn't an identitarian intersectionalist is alt-right. So that term, like, is sort of meaningless in that way.
Yeah, well, okay, I'll just explain what I mean by the alt-right then, just for the time that I used it, because,
well, like, explanations are good. The white identitarians, like the people who actually call themselves alt-right, tend to be the white identitarians.
Yeah, there is a little bit more to their ideology as well. Like, casting aside identitarianism, most people, they still have a little bit more to their political ideology as well. So the way I see it, the alt-right is what you would get if you mixed in the NDP in Canada and mild white nationalists in white supremacists in America. You combine the both of them and you get the alt-right, essentially. And the way I know this is because
which is hilarious, because Richard Spencer, you're right, Richard Spencer advocates all sorts of fucking lefty shit.
Yeah.
And like, another thing that drives me super nuts about that whole debate with the alt-right is I've seen Richard Spencer talk about like how the alt-right shouldn't be anti-Semitic, but should emulate Israel. Like that is the model state for that's the model state for what a white nation could look like.
White Knight Nation.
I just stuttered at the wrong syllable.
But
Pretty much.
That's one of the reasons why I can't take white identitarians too seriously, because they do seem to be like white knights. It's one of these things where sometimes they perceive an attack and it is not an attack on them personally, but they take it like, you're attacking the white race. That's not always true.
Yeah.
Especially.
And they sort of like it. It's a big part of me, the liberal in me, who sort of is just kind of like live and let live.
Degenerate.
Those are the progressives. That's the distinction I make. I have the I still believe in free speech. They don't.
So high and mighty.
I believe in individuals. They believe in groups. There's a couple distinctions there.
Okay.
The fuck was I just saying though?
Sorry.
Fucking derailed my train of thought. What were we just saying?
Derailed your train to the gulag, bitch.
Pretty fucking much.
Okay.
Ugh.
I forgot to.
Whatever, it's gone.
Oh, we're talking about
the weed.
But you were talking about how Richard Spencer stated Israel was the ideal model for a white state.
Yeah, it just fucking came back to me. It just hit me again. So I see a lot of shit posting on Facebook. Not even real shit posting, but just like speculation and commentary that like, man, the Western Canada should secede. This is bullshit. And you see that get popular every time Trudeau or Ontario or Quebec to do something just retarded. And so the liberal live and let live in, he wants to tell all the Richard Spencer white nationalist types like, all right, man, that's cool. Like, good for you. Go just fucking find some area that you can just all go move into and then vote in yourselves and then you'll be fine. Like, you can test it out and see how it works. And so that's sort of how I feel about them. But then I see Western Canada should probably just we should just split, let's get the fuck out of here. And I go, that wouldn't be like the worst thing in the world. I'd probably actually vote for that, just like in terms of financial pragmatism on my part. But then I think, wait a minute, what if I did that and then all the white nationalists moved here? I mean, there's not that many people who live here. They could probably sway the vote pretty well. Fuck, that would suck.
Well, the problem with the white nationalists, and I honestly think this, is that you would have a weird political system here in Western Canada. I don't think the white nationalists are as prominent in Canada as what people make it out to be. But yeah, I would see some of them moving here.
There's not that many people who live here, and they just be like, oh, you mean there's a big slab of America that's a new country that only has 6 million people? Fucking, we should all go there.
I think the way that would work is that somehow then it would be really funny if in this hypothetical world the white nationalists joined up with the NDP, and what happens is you know how the NDP has like a socialist caucus and whatnot. There would be like a Nazi caucus.
Holy shit! Holy shit! It would be an actual It would be Western Canadian actual Nazis. That would be terrible. Yeah. Fuck. We can't separate.
And then what happens is, like, let's say that Rachel Notley wins the next election in Alberta. She has to draw a mustache to stay popular.
Because everyone has to be a meme leader because it's the only way to win votes.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Fuck.
I'm still picturing Rachel Notley with a Hitler stash.
The one thing, though, that Richard Spencer runs, I'd love to see his response to if he still believes this point and makes it once in a while. Let's see somebody challenge him on it and just go, well, the one thing that Israel has that this hypothetical white nationalist country doesn't really have is
Brains,
yeah,
money,
yeah. But the
banking.
Jewish community has a very well set structure in terms of rituals and community development. And that structure has proved very successful in the modern era, especially with their obsession with education. And I don't think white nationalists have a similar set of rituals that they can rally behind. Like even though most Jews are really atheists in practice, most atheist Jews still practice the rituals. They still like go to fucking synagogue and shit, and it's because of the community. But
Yeah.
if you just go build a white nationalist country without that,
It'd be like the Mayans and the Aztecs. You're 1% black. Sacrifice to the altar.
yeah, like I feel like it's immediately unstable. Either you get somebody like that level Puritan where it's just fucking insane and nobody meets the standard except the most inbred fuck, and
Yeah.
and yeah, like guy's family hasn't stopped fucking brothers and sisters since like the 1600s, like those kind of people.
Them and the radical Muslim majorities would probably fit well together. They just don't know it.
Yeah.
They like that brown dick. They just don't know it.
Yeah. But then on top of that, like I sort of believe in economies of like prohibition. Like I believe prohibition propagates the Streisand effect is a thing. So the minute you like raise a kid in a country where you just tell them their whole life, like, man, white people are so great. Aren't white people the best? Fuck all the brown people. I feel like a good percentage of those kids are going to look around the world and be like, man, I've never seen that many real brown people. Like, I'd fuck a brown person.
I see what you mean.
The forbidden fruit, right? Like a whole the second generation of the white nationalists are entirely tempted by the forbidden fruit of every other ethnicity. And then your white nation falls apart after one generation because you don't have the community that like sustains itself, and you forbidden fruit the rest of the world to your kids, so they all fuck off to the rest of the world. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like that's like it's inherently unstable. Still though, I think preferable to intersectional communism.
Yeah, because the goal of white nationalism is to have a white ethno-state. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind just blocking. Here you go. Here's a jurisdiction to have your white nation. And I have full confidence that they would leave us the hell alone. I actually would.
Yeah.
I just pluck them in an area and say, hey, you know what? This is
just like just give them Wyoming. Just like 8% of them are already there. I bet. Like, come on, just give them Wyoming.
I think we should give them California. California. Tell them all to immigrate there. All the Western European Nazis, we should just tell them to immigrate to California. Fine, you guys want us to see?
There's not enough of them.
You're immigrants.
There's not enough of them to impact demographics over there, though. And I don't care. You don't want to be sending new immigrants over to forest fires and fucking. What's the other problem? They don't get any water.
Unless your express purpose is to grow the fire.
Yeah, kindling. We need more kindling.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I don't know if I said this earlier or not, because I said this on the internet a couple times today. But
okay.
All the people who are like the Jewish conspiracy folk, like because this culture results in kids that are smarter and harder working. It results in a community that's more successful, that makes kids that are smarter and harder working. So that's pretty much why they tend to run everything, or are disproportionately represented among the top end. But I feel like all the people who are conspiracy nuts who like go and memorize, like, did you know this percentage of the politicians are Jewish, and you know this percentage of Hollywood's Jewish, and isn't that nuts? I feel like all those people are really closet Jewish supremacists.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what I find kind of funny about it,
it's like, I don't know what else to say. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is, and it's just this weird thing where, okay, I'm going to ask you this question, and I'm going to see if you can answer it in a way that I find interesting. Okay. And, you know, folks who are listening, don't take this out of context. Okay. Do you think Hitler did wrong?
I think he did, but I don't think he thinks he did.
That's a lot of it. Yeah. So go on.
Like, pretty much, this actually runs into, you know, I'm pretty sure it's attributed to Voltaire. I don't know if it was actually one of his or not, but exactly, that was the quote. No, he who can convince you of absurdity can compel you to atrocity. Something along those lines. So if you can
people who can make you believe absurdities can also make you commit atrocities. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's simpler than that. I think the degree to which we err is the degree to which we harm. So Hitler harmed a fuckload because he was really, really mistaken about Jews.
I actually think that's the case.
Like, if he thinks he was doing a great service to the world by wiping them out. I think he was wrong. So I think he did harm. People who agree with him disagree with me.
Yeah. And what I mean, here's the problem that I'm having. I mean, me personally, I'm coming from the right on this. And me personally, I find Hitler to be the most weak-willed, you know, brainless sack of shit that ever crossed the earth, who even dared to call himself an almighty fascist. Because he seemed like he was a fascist imitator, but he didn't really carry out, you know, what was originally the original fascist ideology before Benito Mussolini kind of distorted it. So basically, I'm coming at this from the angle of social Darwinianism. So basically, it's the idea that the strong should rule over the weak, you know, and the weak should kind of know their place a little bit. So it's very much based on social hierarchies. And Hitler was saying that the Aryan, blonde-haired, blue-eyed race of people were the master race. Well, if they were the master race, then why? Yeah, why'd you have to kill the Jews to prove it?
Yeah.
And you're saying that the Jews are subjugating you and they're responsible for all these terrible things. Well, does that not make the Jews the master race, you fucking idiots? And if so, shouldn't you bow down to them? Because your logic is the strong should rule over the weak. You have to bow down to the Jews. That's the logical conclusion of your ideology. But instead, it's like they talk about the ideology from one side of the mouth, and the other side of their mouth, they're saying, no, we have to tear down the master race and make ourselves a master race. Seriously, they're compensating. They're just so stupid.
Yeah, it's I definitely agree with that assessment, where it's just like, okay, if we're gonna just follow this line of reasoning, this heartless level of competition, just like literally nature competition where shit eats your kidneys and you get to watch, like that level of social Darwinism. If we're gonna go with that, fine, by all means. In that case, why are you like systematically trying to wipe out what's clearly the top of the food chain? Like you ever see the mini documentary on what happened to Yellowstone when they reintroduced wolves?
I think so. Just remind me.
Pretty much the ecology was sort of falling apart.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, shit, what are we going to do about this? And they weren't sure what to do about it. And there's like the animals are dying out. They're fucking worried about all that shit. And they introduced wolves to the wolves that had been extinct in the area for a long time. They introduced like a very near relative from a neighboring forest or something. Introduced like a small pack of them into Yellowstone, and and a bunch of people were like, "Oh no, they're just gonna eat the last 12 of our fucking animals. We can't do this. Like, what are you doing? You're nuts." But instead, they sort of became a regulator of all the animals that eat the seeds off the ground that provided the forest in the first place. So
yeah, I remember
they're being reintroduced, provided a boom in plant life, which provided a boom in prey animals, which provided a boom in wolves, and the entire process, like, literally rerouted rivers because they added top of the food chain back to the system that was totally fucked. And the Germans were like, man, we got this group that's at the very top of our system. Let's cut them off. It's like, no, we know what happens to ecologies when you do that. Fuck off, man. Like, we need those people.
Yeah.
It's like literally Pol Pot too. Pol Pot was the exact same, where it was like, all right, we're going to kill off all the academics because fuck the academics. And then all the literates. And then all the people who look like literates. You got glasses? Fuck you. You're dead now. Like, totally fucked up shit. And it's just like, oh man, I wonder why your society fucking collapsed. Yeah. What?
I mean, I think what a lot of leftists and a lot of millennials in general, people our age, what they don't understand is what capitalism is and exactly why it assigns value to things and exactly what capital, the very word capital even means, because you can't value everything the same. And a lot of people think, why can't you value every life the same? Why can't you value every commodity the same? Why can't you? Well, I mean, do you value anything the same? Do you do that in your own life? Do you think every video game is as equally as fun, or do you think every television is equal in its features?
This is another place where I think we can go back to sports and really, really draw a line for people. And why I think the decline in youth sports is so dangerous is everybody understands that there's a winner and a loser, and generally everybody understands why. And most of the time, it's because one team worked harder than the other, or one player worked harder than the other. Like there's a reason Usain Bolt is the fastest man in the world and won all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And everybody understood why, and nobody was upset that he didn't get a bronze medal. Like everybody should just get a bronze. Why is there a gold and a silver? Everyone should just get a bronze. If you suggested that, you'd be fucking slapped upside the head by literally everyone who's ever watched a race. But when you make that suggestion on like an economic scale, people somehow miss it and don't realize that no, like your merit is your value, and your merit can damn near be judged in the amount of self-inflicted suffering that you've put yourself through, be it physical via ridiculous training regimens that made you a pro athlete, or be it via intellectual discipline of reading ridiculous 15-point Scrabble words through textbooks for 5 to 30 years. There's a reason people have different values, and the guy who fucking pumps gas, smokes weed, and plays video games isn't as valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand. I don't think people understand why they even exist, and it just pisses me off a little bit because you don't. And it's, I get it. There are some people who try to be a little bit relativist on this, where they're saying, oh, there's no real reason for you to exist. You create your own reasons. But no, I mean, I think there are certain things that people do in their lives that give them satisfaction, and that's really why they exist. I
haven't talked to you at all about. I haven't talked to you at all about how I view religions as valuable. Hey.
Not really. Is it relevant? Because I know it's the topic of religion gets pretty damn extensive. So
yeah, well, for me, it seems sort of on topic, just because I honestly think this is why feminism's gotten popular, powerful, and the threat of society, sort of, So in the 2000s, there was a couple of famous documentaries that came out. Bill Maher's was one of them, the Religulous documentary. And then there's another one that I can't remember the name of. I think it was God's Not There. Anyway, there's a couple of documentaries that came out that made like the atheist movement a thing and kind of exploded that demographic and made the theism debate a popular one for quite a while. And I think it drove quite a few people out of the church. I was already out of the church at that point, and I no longer believed at that point. But I think it did quite a bit to drive more people away from the church. But without some community structure like sports, people lack identity because they don't know why they exist and they need something to tell them. And that's what religions do. My religion, being football, told me to do push-ups. When they left the church, a lot of them didn't have a religion because they weren't in sports. And the religion they wound up turning to was the academic religion they were pushed to of intersectional feminism. And that's like, so there's a direct line from the church being like a strong force to the church becoming more of a joke to the church suffering a ideological argument loss in some network anyway. Whether or not it did on a wider scale is irrelevant. And in a network it lost. And the people who left the church, instead of going somewhere useful, went somewhere way the fuck worse. And me, as somebody who I think went somewhere useful, is just looking at them all like, oh, motherfucker, you all got to go back to the church, or we need to find a better alternative because this is not good.
The thing is and I'm not sure whether you would hear this in church at all, and I bet that the answer would most certainly be no. But my stance on this, of course, is why do people exist? It's to breed. Literally, yeah. It's to breed. It's to breed, and
psychologically, it is to breed so that your ideology can survive your death.
Yeah, exactly. And I know you're talking about that.
I want my grandchildren to make the NFL, and the only way my grandchildren can make the NFL is if I train my kids well enough.
Yeah, and if you train yourself well enough, then you would know have a blueprint to train your kids well enough if you wanted to.
Yeah, I have a blueprint to train my kids better than I was. And then if that wasn't enough, that kid will have a blueprint to train his kid better than he was.
And if your kid doesn't meet up to your expectations, he'll give him a blue eye. No.
And that's the trick and sort of the issue of the modern age, I think, because for the people who do wind up leaving a theistic structure, it's really hard to get those generational sort of things. Like it used to be employment and religion. It was God and your job because you did what your father did. And both of those have kind of fallen away. And even in athletics, like I want my kid to play football, but if my kid wants to play hockey, I'm going to try to let him excel at that to the best I can. But I'm not that well versed at that, at least not comparatively. And say my kid doesn't like sport at all, then I don't even know what to provide them with a set of rituals to develop them into the thing that they want to be. Because I'm not that. And I think that's the problem of like future generations going forward is how the fuck are we going to set some sort of a religious framework that isn't dependent on the theological arguments winning and provides the generational consistency and rituals that provide value. Like that's one reason I really like Christians is pretty much every version of Christianity at least as a pretty good attempt at trying to provide value. Like fucking going to third world to build houses or whatever the fuck else they're doing. Even Mormons going door to door trying to save my soul. That's an attempt at trying to provide value. Fucking communists, their attempt to provide value is destruction. Fuck them.
Is the destruction of the idea of value, it seems.
Yeah. It's the destruction of society and the idea of value. Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, fuck that. That's way worse than like pretty much any other idea I can think of.
Yeah. I mean, it's this weird thing where, you ask a whole bunch of, I'm just reminded of the environmentalist movement, especially here in BC. They're just so damn radical with the Dogwood Initiative and other
And like the worst
organizations.
thing for the environment is environmentalists.
Yeah, and what I find funny about that, if you go to ask them, would you ever consider working in the industry to actually come up with new solutions? There are a certain percentage of them that would, but the ones on the picket lines, fuck no. They just want to
Yeah.
protest about it. They just want to
Yeah.
whine, bitch, and moan. Well, guess what? I mean, you can be a consumer critic. Like you're able to be like you're able to work for a company like IGN. Fuck IGN, but
Yeah.
you're able to just be a video game critic, for example. But if you don't even consume, or if you're not passionate about what you consume, then you can't really be one. And frankly, they were anti-oil despite consuming it, so they never really seem to actually take the time to study whatever the hell they're criticizing on a particular day, except for some whack jobs who decide to, use a blowtorch on the kitchen sink to prove a point. I mean, why would you even do that?
Did you see fucking the no DALP protests?
No dapple, dope.
Yeah, no DALP. Fucking dyslexic, whatever. No
Dakota Access Line Pipe. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Brutal. Yeah, that shit. Okay, so I'm fucking, when that was going on, I'm just scrolling and I'm seeing an article. I'm like, oh man. So Cannonball, the nearest native community, had a vote on what they should do about the protesters. Oh, and they voted overwhelmingly to kick the protesters out because they're like, fuck off, this isn't your business. Get the fuck out of our town. The protesters had to leave town and set up camp outside of town. So the water they were protecting, they set up camp on the floodplain of the river, and then they fucking shit all over it, like literally burying their shit, their fucking human fecal matter in the floodplain upstream of the community, like a bunch of cunts. And then they fucking, so like the community vote, the natives vote to kick them out, and then they go and shit upstream of the natives all over the place. And then they burn some industrial equipment on a bridge over the water that they're trying to defend. And then they fucking have a video of a fucking Maori tribesman doing the haka on the highway. And they're like celebrating what a great protest it is. Look at this. Look at this New Zealand native man protesting in Central America against American natives. What the fuck? What am I even looking at here? Like, how cunty can you possibly be?
Yeah, I mean, I just find it funny how they're.
That would be like, if I was to write a script, that would not make the list because it would be too far.
I mean, you can't even make this shit up. What I just find funny about it is, the whole point of the bloody protest that went on for months, and wasn't it half a year or so, or more than that?
Yeah,
just for a long ass time. And the whole point of that was to protect the land, and the protesters literally destroy the land.
And you know why?
Any jobs?
Because that's what their rituals demand. Their rituals demand that as a bunch of communist environmentalists, they need to destroy. Like the communist, like the hero's journey is the most important part of any ideology. What is the hero's journey narrative? What does it push young people to do? What identity does it give them, and what actions do they take under that identity? And when you're an environmentalist, any form of this communist bullshit is always destruction. It's always, oh, well, we need to deconstruct everything. We're going to deconstruct the testicles so that sucking a penis isn't gay anymore.
That's essentially what the transgender movement has done now. Apparently, Caitlyn Jenner has the most feminine penis in existence.
Yeah, I saw. You see that? You see that conversation that's been going around? It's like a screenshot from some Facebook conversation, and it's somebody being like, "So if male to female transsexual still has their penis, is it gay to suck it, or like because they're a girl, so it's not gay? But it just seems like there's something gay about sucking a penis." and the person's like, no, it's actually transphobic to ask this question. And it's just like, what the fuck level of ridiculous am I on now? Like, Poe's Law, I know Poe's Law's been doing Rails for a decade, but I don't even know anymore.
I mean, it's just, yeah, I mean, I'll say this as a staunch social conservative on a lot of issues. I gotta say, people should go to the bathrooms that corresponds to the genitalia. I cannot imagine a she-male or with a vagina trying to use a urinal. I mean, that's just uncomfortable. Don't do it. Don't force yourself to do something you're uncomfortable with. That's my message. But apparently that's not good. That's transphobic for them to do something that they already do and they want to do.
I agree with the end of your message that they shouldn't be forced to do something they're uncomfortable doing, or they shouldn't even have to do something they're uncomfortable doing. But to me, it's it doesn't matter so much about their genitals. It's, you should go to the bathroom. I think your genitals are. Because if I'm gonna walk into a shitter, I don't want to walk into a shitter next to some chick with tits just because she happens to have a penis, like a skirt and a dress and whatnot. Like that would be uncomfortable for me, and I think a little uncomfortable for her, especially if I'm like not thinking and go to check them out and then realize where I am and what's going on. Like, I feel like that puts them at risk when you make it about genitals. Because there's going to be some select subset of dudes who really react negatively to that. Probably the ones raised by single mothers.
I'm going to be honest with you, Saint. I don't care about their feelings. I disagree, because I think in those instances you should completely disregard the feelings. If you have a penis, you have to go to the man's washroom. If you have a vagina, you have to go to the women's washroom.
You do care about their feelings. You do care about that, like, they shouldn't have to, like you justified your initial position with
that they shouldn't be physically uncomfortable. I don't mean physically uncomfortable as in they hear something or they watch someone looking at their tits because they have a penis uncomfortable, so much so that they start shaking. I think
you'd find they'd be quite physically uncomfortable when they're beaten to shit because somebody raised by a single parent, unlike myself, decided to beat the fuck out of them for tricking them into checking them out when they have a penis.
Did they trick you, or did you do it out of your own?
No, I agree. I think it would be dumb, but to me,
confession.
I think it would be retarded. I think it would be retarded either way. But I just recognize that in reality, that's an inevitable outcome if that's what you're going to force the situation into. So similarly, you're going to get a bunch of fucking people who look like dudes who have vaginas who are being accused of rape because they had to take a piss. Oh man, sorry, I went to the bathroom with the wrong kind of feminist. My mistake.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, it's not an issue I'm super passionate about, but my whole point is that, like I said at the beginning, if you have a vagina, don't attempt to piss in a urinal hole.
I agree. I would definitely agree with that. Like, if you have a vagina and you're passing as a dude, please just go sit down. Like, yeah. I won't know. You won't. Nobody around will know.
Yeah.
Like that's the one thing I think where we can agree, where it's
toilets are gender neutral.
Yeah, toilets are gender neutral, but no, like I don't want to be checking out anyone else's genitals, and I don't want the government checking out anyone's genitals. And I feel like we can all agree on that. But at the same time, I think that in certain situations, the genders should not just be like commonly allowed together. Like, in terms of social conservatism, I think I am a little bit with you there. Like totally gender neutral bathrooms, just eliminating male female bathrooms. That seems a little dicey to me.
Well, I don't know
what it is about it, but it's just like, maybe it's a culture thing that girls have always been able to run off to the bathroom in groups, and there's always been like a social stigma against being in a bathroom with girls. Like, I feel like if I went into the girls' bathroom, if it was like in high school, if I went in the girls' bathroom,
hey ladies,
by myself,
you're fabulous,
and it's like 30 chicks and just me, I'm the villain. But if I'm just sitting there in the locker room and it's 30 dudes and some chick walks into the boys' locker room, it's one chick and 30 dudes, I'm still the villain.
Yeah.
Like, at least that's how I
Yeah.
feel about it. So the whole like gender neutral bathrooms idea, like I think it might be a culture thing more than like any kind of actual argument I have for it. But to me, I feel like that's an area where like some sort of a segregation should happen. But I don't give a fuck about checking out anyone's genitals. I just don't think that I don't want to feel like a villain, and I don't want them to feel like people are prying on them.
Well, I mean, I did get into this debate with this pro-gender neutral bathrooms guy. Of course, I don't. I think they should be around. Not the pro-gender neutral bathroom guys, but the pro-gender neutral bathrooms themselves. On a friend's Facebook timeline, and I remember asking him, would you actually eliminate gendered bathrooms altogether? And he said yes. And I remember telling him that.
Like
with all due respect, you're allowed to believe that, but if I found my daughter pissing next to an old guy, and that old guy's eventually going to look at her, in some weird way or another, I would punch his light point of permanent injury.
I would feel a lot less comfortable sending my daughter to the bathroom at like a public event. I'd be like, well, I guess I'm going to come with you to make sure that the dude in the next stall doesn't have a video camera.
And other people would get the wrong idea from that too. And,
yeah, exactly. And then suddenly you're getting arrested for like following your own kid around. It's like, what the fuck? This is just leading to problems, especially in the feminist paradise where everything that you do is transgressive, and transgressions are crimes.
Transgressions,
yeah.
Male
fuck! I'm transphobic now, apparently.
Yeah, transgression. You're transgression phobic. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. I literally am.
But it's this thing where I remember, like, I don't think I expressed these sentiments, but what I was just thinking about, if this guy were, this guy has the right to his opinion. But if this guy were to actually get into political office, and this is the same way, by the way, that I feel about Kathleen Wynne, because when it comes to children, when it comes to mixing gender politics with children, I get ballistic. I get barbaric. If he were to actually get into power and propose that little girls should be allowed to shit with, older guys, I'd probably go up to the mic and fucking, kill him with it. It's just this thing where, when it comes to, because are you aware of what's going on in Ontario right now in regards to the sexual education curriculum, but also to the new transgender laws that have been placed there?
If you tell me, I might know, but I couldn't tell you offhand.
Okay, Ben Shapiro touched a little bit of this about this on the Joe Rogan show. Ontario, you could deny your child's transgender identity, and if you do, your child will be taken away from you.
Okay, yeah, I did see this, and
the problem is that in the current sexual education curriculum, they're teaching kids the definitions of gay, lesbian, and trans, bisexual, which, in my opinion, is terrible, because I think it should be taught by the parents or by the internet, and I'm not even kidding. I would rather have my kid accidentally stumble upon tranny porn than have them being taught by the teacher. The reason why that is because if they stumble upon tranny porn, they're curious and they don't know what the hell it is, and they'll ask first chance to get. And the authority figure, if they have enough brain cells, which I would try to aspire to be around my kids as long as possible when they're young. So, like, in the ideal scenario, they would come to me. But when a teacher does it, they legitimize it. And then what happens with kids, and this has been documented, is they ask their parents, am I going to be turning into a boy? Am I going to be turning into a girl if they're a boy? Or am I gay? Am I lesbian? It's like, oh my goodness.
Kids don't even realize that other kids don't even recognize that other people have agency and are people until they're like 4.
Exactly. It takes time.
And it's like, when they're like 8 or 9, and when they're like 8 or 9 is when they like first realize that the other gender doesn't have the same genitals as them.
Yeah.
Like even having seen it before that age, they like struggle to make the connection. And
That
then
connection.
yeah, funny. Um, but it's just like,
You just
so
stupid, disgusting little
you're
pig.
expecting
Huh?
people to be on this like at this level of psychological development to be able to tell you their preferences in terms of like gender identity. Like this is nuts. Especially like I think I'm sort of with you. I don't mind it being in schools, but it should definitely be later on.
Yeah, I'm okay with
Um,
that too. But I mean,
uh,
it's just this idea that, if they were to learn about it at an early age, I'd rather they learn it about it from a parent or a very, very close guardian that actually has their best interest at heart. Because what tends to happen in these elementary schools, especially in Ontario, where it's essentially social justice capital of North America,
yeah.
um, is that the teachers would say, "Well, that doesn't matter, Johnny, to know whether he's a tranny." They're like, you can be whatever you want. So they'll start questioning, and they might even reach the conclusion that they are. And if you say, no, Johnny, you're not a fucking tranny at this age because you don't know what it even means, Johnny could be upset because they heard in school that if
That,
you're
that it's
being
good to
called
be a
something that
tranny.
you don't identify as, then people hate you. And
Yeah.
that's not the case. But they would take that bullshit indoctrination that because the main problem I have in all this is that with the indoctrination with the curriculum is that they presuppose that if you have an identity, or part of your identity is being trans or whatever minority sexuality or sexual orientation, then if someone asks you a question about it or questions your sexuality, that in of itself is an insult and an offense that you can actually respond to justifiably with violence. Well,
Yeah.
everyone is curious because most people in this world are not of a sexual minority. So you're going to have to kill like,
Everyone.
I don't know, 80-90% of the population to really get to if you wanted to reach your logical conclusion, because everyone's going to be bashing you.
But then there'll just be a new majority.
Yeah. And
Like,
I don't no no
like,
I'm
sorry,
saying
now
I don't
gays are the
support that.
privileged. Now gays are the privileged ones because there's no straight people left. Oh no! Now we killed all the gays. Now the bisexual people are the most privileged because there's no gay or straight people left. Like, it's just a slippery slope, right?
Yep. And then Trigglypuff eats the rest of them.
When first they came, but like, and on top of the bigger worry to me about the losing your kid if you deny their
that's the biggest.
Like the bigger fear to me on that aspect than the indoctrination in the class even is just the misinterpretation of attempted communications with somebody still of single digit age. There's I think it's a Reddit post I see go around all the time. It's either Reddit or 4chan. I don't go to either, so I always forget which one is which. But one of those structures is going around all the time, and it's somebody ranting about their kid getting a note from their kid's school about how their kid is clearly transsexual because he wants to wear he wants to wear a purple dress to school.
Oh my goodness!
Because he drew a purple dress as his favorite article of clothing. It's like, if you could get anything, what would it be? And he drew a really nice purple dress. And so the parent looked at it and went, "Motherfucker, that's a Kobe Bryant jersey, you dumb cunt."
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! That's
the spaghetti straps and the purple and it looks like a purple dress. No, it's a fucking Lakers jersey. God, what the fuck? Like, so it's like if that was the communication error and instead of just accepting that they'd made a mistake, if they, instead of doing that, the teacher decides to do what a lot of these ideologues tend to do, and they just double down on their Dunning-Kruger. If she does that and goes like, "No, sorry, I don't care if he really likes Kobe Bryant and he loves the Lakers and it's all he talks about and he wants to be a basketball player when he grows up. he drew a purple dress. Like I could see that happening among these fucking lunatics. And I'm not sure who else but those lunatics would confuse a jersey with a purple dress.
But what kind of a demented fucking mind?
And comes to the conclusion that they're transsexual because of that. Like, even if that was the case, I'd be like, so you want to be the tooth fairy for Halloween or something? Like,
yeah, I mean,
I got friends who did that. That's a little weird, but like, whatever.
But I mean, they're just assuming their gender then.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny because the teachers, the education system, and the courts, and you know, the piece of crap premier they currently have in Ontario, they can all misgender a kid. But as soon as the parent misgenders the kid, they're sent, you know, the kids are taken away from them. I mean, really.
And sent to what? Like, is there really a surplus of adopting parents around? I'm pretty sure there's.
Of course there aren't.
Pretty sure there's not. If the suicides in the BC system are anything to go by.
Yeah, and so what I find kind of funny is, I made this comment I think there was this discussion with one of the what we call it. My dad works with some sort of investor, and he's been a family friend for a while, and we had a conversation. He's ultra conservative, so am I. But I was talking to him about Kathleen Wynne, and I was saying, you know, honestly, at this point in time, with all the craziness that is going on in Ontario, and I'm not sure if you're aware of who wrote up the sexual education curriculum in Ontario, Ben Levin, who's a convicted child predator.
Oh.
He actually, what he did was he went on these anonymous chat rooms where he would coerce parents to fuck their own children. The way that the way that they found out was
something into that. That's amazing.
Yeah, the RCMP actually, I think it was the RCMP or the provincial police, one of the two. They caught him by posing as a parent, and he kept writing about how him and his wife sexually advanced on his daughter.
That's so
and he was describing in gross detail about how they were, you know, doing stuff to her.
Man.
And
so fucked. It seems way more common than I would have ever thought.
Yeah,
like,
so
maybe it's just among a certain demographic of like people who seek like authoritarian seek authority. Maybe it's like a certain demographic of psychological personality type that like strives for the upper echelons of society, that's also a sick, fuck-witted degenerate. But like, fuck, man, that's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, you actually would be able to look it up online. Ben Levin.
Yeah, it's like they make jokes about fucking Catholic priests and kids, and like the more anti-gay the preacher, the more likely he's taking it up the ass somewhere on the weekends. Yeah. Like I feel like that's also directly true for the progressive intersectional proselytizers. Like the more they espouse their virtue, the more suspect they should be.
But the thing is, he and Kathleen Wynne and a few others helped write the sexual education curriculum. Can you ask me why a pedophile was even remotely in charge of writing the sexual education curriculum intended for children?
You know,
why the fuck did they even let him in the room? Why didn't they arrest him?
If you want to see the other end of the spectrum of government absurdity in terms of who's allowed in debates and who's not allowed in debates, sure. You see Tarek Fatah get entirely ignored when he was talking to the government about the M103 Islamophobia bill. And it's like, okay, we have a pro-democracy Muslim reformer that you're going to ignore while appeasing theocratic gender segregationists. And then you're going to, so that's who you're not going to allow in the debate and who you're going to allow in the debate. And then over here, you're going to have a pedophile write your fucking sex ed course. Like, are you fucking insane? It's just anybody who doesn't agree with the intersectional bullshit, which Islam as a gender segregating ideology does. If you don't accept some sort of intersectionalist bullshit, then you don't get a seat at the table. And it's like, all right, well, fine, we'll accept some intersectionalist bullshit. What are we? I'm a white man, so can I have my white group or my male group? Nope, that makes you a Nazi. Wait, what? I thought you guys were the Nazis. I just tried to play by your rules. Like, the fuck's going on here?
Yeah, so here's an article from CBC. It says a man who, this is written in 2015 when he was convicted. So
Not even
think
like,
about this first.
I was sort of expecting it was like from 2003 or something, 2015.
Yeah. So
Like,
I'll just read a little bit of it out to you and just think about it for a second. Think about the year in which it was written, 2015. Just hang on to that for a second. Okay, so
the year misery.
a man who once was deputy education minister, so deputy education minister is pretty fucking high, in Ontario and Manitoba.
What?
Was sentenced Friday to 3 years in prison. 3 years in prison. In prison. So next year he's going to be out. Okay. So for and you know what he's going in there for? For 3 child porn related offenses. 3.
Yeah, well, so 1 a year. I don't see what the problem is. So that's fucked.
So he's 63 years old, so he's no spring chicken who, you know, attracts any of the LGs. So he was handed a sentence of 6 months for possession of child porn, 12 months for making child porn, and 18 months for counseling to commit sexual assault.
Man, that's so hard.
And they were run concurrently. These sentences were run concurrently. They didn't stack.
That sounds about right, yeah.
And in her decision, Ontario Court Justice Heather MacArthur said Levin, a respected scholar and a father of 3, appeared to have it all.
That sounds, yeah. He did appear to have it all, and then he was a fucking lunatic, and then you're just like, that's okay, though. Did you see how much he had?
Love it. I love this, though. She noted that, however, that Levin, who kept his head bowed for much of the sentencing, appeared genuinely remorseful and was deemed to have low risk of reoffending by the doctor who conducted his psychiatric assessment. I mean, what do you do when you're caught with porn, dude? Do you, proclaim, I'm going to do this again to your parents? Are you going to hang your head low? I mean, seriously, aren't you just going to, when you get out, just look it up again?
Yeah, especially, when you're doing it to that level. It's not like he had if you just had a vast child porn collection, I'd be like, well, that's a little worrisome. Who's your distributor, man? How many distributors do you got? Let's see if we can plead it down to 3 years. We can get some more people. But when he's counseling people to make his own custom porn, yeah, that's fucked. That's next level fucked.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? There's a great term here I should introduce. Well, one of the football teams I played on, this was probably a couple of years after the Robert William Pickton trial. Mm-hmm. So I'm a rookie on the team, pretty fresh out of high school, and this is 2008 or 9 or something in there. And anyway, the 2 terms on the team were squid. You don't want to be a squid. Squid means you're fucking shit, just a shitty squid. And then the other term was, instead of fucked, things that are a little bit more than fucked. So something like this. This applies, because I feel like fucked isn't quite appropriate enough. It's fucked when a guy gets hit by a bus in front of a school of kids or something. Yeah. It's fucked when something else happens. But something counseling parents to molest their children is next level ridiculous. So the term that we had was picked, because Pickton was a fucking individual to the next level. Yeah. So this is picked. This isn't fucked. This is right picked.
That's good. That's a good term. I can see that carrying some
I love
steam.
I was a little disappointed. I recently got to have another position with that team once again after not playing football anymore, just some other random tangential position with the team. And I went and asked some of the players, so are people still squids around here? And are you guys all still picked? And the guy knew what squid was, but he didn't know what picked meant. So I'm happy Squid's still around, but I was a little disappointed to find out Picked didn't survive, because I feel like that's a super useful term, because fucked is a good, passionate, strong word, but sometimes you just need a little bit more. You need something else.
Yeah. I was just sorry. I was listening to what you were saying. Picked and Squid. Yeah. That's funny. But I was just reading down the article. Just a little worse. Okay, so So this is what it says. The court heard throughout his trial that Levin used to frequent an online website with numerous forums for the discussion of sexual activities with children. In some online conversations, Levin claimed to have sexually abused each of his daughters, though no evidence of it ever emerged, and all three of his children denied it ever occurred. I mean, all three of his children denied it ever occurred. Sounds to me like a North Korean election result, but anyhow.
Oh man, that's fucked. That's so fair. Right picked.
But here's the kicker. It was online that Levin ended up chatting with undercover officers in Toronto, London, Ontario, and another in New Zealand, all posing as women interested in sexual activities with children.
I wonder if the New Zealand cop is pissed about 3 years.
Yeah. And here's what really pisses me off. Okay? The judge also ruled that for 5 years, keep that number in mind, 5 years only, Levin can't go to public parks, pools, daycares, and schools unless he's supervised by someone over 21 years of age who knows of his conviction. So just for 5 years.
Well, that's good.
He can't go to public parks.
And supervised, you know. With a friend.
Yeah, for only 5 years.
That's
pretending to, after counseling people to fuck their own children. Yeah, 5 years, I'm sorry, not enough. And his use of internet will be limited, and he cannot work with children under 16 again. How gullible is the justice system? He's just going to go for 16-year-olds and a little bit up. There are lots of 16-year-olds to prey upon.
Especially when you're like mid to late adolescence like that, like the physical development is quite wide ranging at the exact same age number. Like you can find 16-year-olds that look like they're 21 or more, and you can find 16-year-olds that look like they're 11. Both of those are real things.
And think about this one. At a sentencing hearing last month, Levin's lawyer, Clayton Ruby, distributed a statement authored by Levin that said his client was truly sorry for what he had done. And this is oh gosh, this pisses me off even more. At the hearing, Ruby said Levin had received numerous letters of support from colleagues and his family since his arrest.
That's good.
What is going on with Ontario? Why would... Like, if I were in a university and I saw any one of my folks, have their names on, signing off on a letter of support to Ben Levin, I would fire their ass and ban them from ever working with my university or my company again. I would.
Yeah.
Why would you support child pornography in any form? And I love this caveat. He also pointed out that of the approximately 2,000 pornographic images found on Levin's hard drives, only 14 met the standard of child pornography. So is this what we're basing it on now?
Well, at least
if a child image just happens to sneak there, don't worry about it.
At least he had a vast collection to hide his child pornography within.
But obviously, it seemed like Hillary Clinton did a better job of hiding her emails than he did his pictures.
Yeah, but like the lens that I look at all this through, the framing I try to use that I think keeps me from absolutely losing my fucking mind is Did you ever see the movie Jesus Camp?
No, it sounds very erotic in a way that I really don't. It's
yeah, especially coming from the porn conversation. But it's a documentary about just like hardcore evangelical Christians in the States. And they like send their kids to this camp. And like in the camp, they're literally like worshiping placards of like cardboard cutouts of George W. Bush. Like it's
Huh?
It's super.
It's
super,
called Jesus Camp,
yeah.
and they're worshiping George Bush.
Yeah,
Why don't they call it George Bush Camp, and then they
because
worship Jesus?
they're just like it's the like evangelical version of Christianity in the States that's hyper political, and they just loved George Bush. They just loved George Bush at the time. But to me, that like, well, the first time I saw that movie,
I honestly thought you were going to go to the path that they were going to be worshiping cardboard cutouts of penises, because I thought that's what you were going.
No, but I'll circle back here in a second. But just the first time I saw that, it like terrified me, because it was like, this is some fucked up indoctrination. Like, these kids are getting fucked psychologically for the rest of their lives. And that's sort of what I thought about it watching it. And I sort of felt the same way about like the Fred Phelps kids. And like that family's fucked. Their kids are all fucked. But all of them have escaped. And the ones who escape can become normal. And so going back, like, the reason people exist is to breed so that their ideology can survive themselves. But the only way their ideology can do that is if they indoctrinate their kids. And the reason that you are so enraged by all this, I think, is because there's the intersectional ideology. To perpetuate it to the next generation, you have to indoctrinate your kids into it. But most of the people who are indoctrinating their kids into it weren't indoctrinated into it the same way. And I'm pretty sure they're breaking their kids a lot worse than they themselves were broken. And I think you're observing the same thing. And I feel like you have to try to, I know it's ridiculous to try to do, but you have to like try to divorce yourself from the conversation about like the individual victims of the event, and try to look at the larger cultural debate, because that's the only way to turn the tide and to prevent future generations of kids from being victimized in the same way by this ridiculous ideology, is to provide arguments strong enough and compelling, and more importantly, compelling enough that the next generation of people who would indoctrinate their kids don't, because they've been convinced out of it. They've been compelled out of it. And hopefully if we can make the arguments popular enough, then that particular ideological ridiculous group becomes no more popular than fucking some other fringe religion that nobody bothers mentioning or noticing, because they have no political or institutional power anywhere, and you just gotta let them fuck around on their own and fuck their own communities up. Like, I feel like that's going to be, hopefully the end game is in 3 generations, there's just little weird cultish intersectional communities similar to Scientology communities or other weird pseudo cults. But in the meantime, they have institutional power, and we need to fucking get some arguments that talk people out of indoctrinating their kids into this shit. You can't do that if you're too emotionally involved. Like, you have to.
Well, here's the thing. And this is one of the issues that I completely diverge from classical liberals on. And this is why I can never be a classical liberal, because this is one of the principles I've always held myself, and just in general. Okay. And this is a funny thing where, part of this I'll be talking about is when it comes to pedophilia, there are actually some liberals who are more extreme than I am. Some people think that, just by you being a pedophile, you should be killed. I personally actually
studied.
Yeah, I actually don't think that should. I don't think that should happen. I don't think you should be killed if you're a pedophile. I think you should treat it the same as HIV, in the sense that if you have sex with someone knowing that you have HIV, then you should be, charged with murder. Same thing with, if you know you're a pedophile and you don't get yourself treated, right, then you're going to, prey upon a child. And so I don't think it's your fault that you have an illness. I do think it's a mental illness that becomes criminality when when you're self-aware and you actually, you do stuff you're not supposed to anyway. However, as soon as you go into the realm of persuading people to sexually assault other people, even if it's for fantasy, as soon as you do that, in my opinion, the guillotine's where you have to go.
So like
No
people,
exceptions.
so like people who make like S&M porn should be sent to the guillotine.
No, people who actually counsel
Because they're making a
prospective
fan.
pedophiles to act on their urges on real people.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah, okay. I could see that.
It's the same
Even
thing with, if you're telling someone that they should commit suicide, and if they don't, then they should just then they're cowards and whatnot, which is what happened kind of a few months ago. And
I have a weird position on
I think they should be
all this
killed.
that you might consider totalitarianish. I feel like there's a few areas where I could easily be framed as some sort of communist dictator.
Sure.
Vaccines are one of them. I'm pretty much like, if you're not vaccinating your kid, fuck you. Like, you're not
Yeah, are you
vaccinating your
going to
kid.
vaccinate the pedophilia out of old men?
I'm totally going to vaccinate the pedophilia out of the population. That is the plan. Well, hey, if it's an option, why not?
Yeah, of
GMO
course.
that shit. GMO. We found the
Oh,
pedophilia
yeah.
gene, and we're going to turn it off.
Yep.
But what I would like to do is, like, I sort of believe that these exceptional criminal deviants develop in a certain way, or in a set of certain ways. But I think they like develop along a predictable path. So I would I see every found pedophile or serial killer or fucking cannibal or whatever the fuck you want to find in terms of outlier lunatics for violent crime. I think like I would love to get them as study subjects to just like scan the fuck out of their brains, just MRI the shit out of their brains daily while studying, like flashing shit before their face. Do that for fucking a decade. I don't give a shit for the rest of their lives. But I want the best map of these people's brains possible, so that in like a future generation, part of your graduation requirement is you get a quick brain scan. Not to like identify your thoughts or your motives or your feelings, but just like your proclivities.
But what about people who drop out of high school?
Okay, well, do it at stages through your life at certain points, so that you can identify these people with these proclivities, not to like kill them or take them out of society or wipe them out, but to try to provide some sort of a treatment to prevent them from developing to the point where the initial test subject was developed. Like, I want to know what made Picton the way he was, so that in 2060 we can brain scan some kid in grade 6 and go like, oh, you got some weird connections developing here, buddy. You should read these books, and here, take this pill once a week, and then, oh, you're 14. Oh, those aren't quite as bad as we were expecting. That's better. Continue this treatment. Or like, holy fuck, you're way the fuck worse. We need to keep an eye on you. What's that? 14 dogs and 2 children have gone missing. We should probably talk to this kid.
Yeah.
And I feel like that could be a way to sort of like screen for potential suspects for certain crimes as well. Where like, but you can't do that if you just kill the worst of the worst. You have to turn them into lab rats, which I think is that's the utilitarian in me. It's like, that's a perfectly good fucking lab rat. Throwing out right there. We could give him cancer.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
Do it again.
Yeah, I honestly don't disagree. And I would take that system any day over the current system we have now, because 3 years is bullshit.
Yeah.
By any stretch of the imagination.
3 years is like, so what do you think, like, how 3 years is like almost enough to consider like Googling what it is to commit arson against a prison just to make sure he gets a little more.
Yeah. And honestly, I would bet that drug-related offenses, which I've got to be honest, I am for certain components of the drug war, but on this, I can definitely agree with people on.
I'm in favor of the drug war as far as it's against the black market. I'm against the drug war as far as it gives a black market a monopoly on products.
I kind of agree with you there. I'm sorry. But as far as this goes, I mean, it's this. but one of the things I am in agreement with a lot of the weed smokers, I just call them weed smokers, I'm an ass,
Whatever.
is that honestly, sorry, yeah, some drug-related offenses are a little too high in proportion to far worse crimes, um, like weed possession and whatnot. They could land you a few years. I'm not entirely
Uh,
sure why, when possession of child pornography, distribution of child pornography, and
Creation.
counseling, yeah, creation and counseling of child sexual assault acts against children are equivalent to weed possession. That's bullshit, if that's completely true. But
The weed thing is a frustrating one because it's the stats on it. Like I'm pretty opposed to pretty much every non-violent possession crime. But a lot of possession charges are plea downs. Like I have a cousin who did some time for distribution. He's yeah, lives in Alberta, guys. Oil field to black, oil field to gang muscle.
okay.
And anyway, he got busted with a bunch of drugs and a gun, I believe, and didn't get charged with the distributing because he pled down to the possession and the weapons charge. So, so he's listed as a nonviolent offender because he sort of is, but his crime, like his crime was worth more than what he was charged with. So he got more than what he was charged with. But if you just look at him as a stat, it'd be like, really, this guy's doing that? This guy did that much time for that petty
Yeah, it
little
seems
crime?
to me like that.
Like
To be stacked. Yeah.
Yeah, so like for the most part, very, very few possessions that are just some kid smoking weed. Pretty much no matter how much weed he happens to have on him. Most of the time, those guys are just getting like fines or like a date in court and other inconveniences. I had another buddy who I worked with lifeguarding who got stuck. He was eligible to work anywhere in the world as a tour guide instructor for scuba diving, and he wasn't allowed to leave the country because he got caught with weed. He was another guy who had the weed charge for possession, although his was with intent to distribute because he was at the time a recognized distributor for his high school. And so he got 4 or 5 years where he couldn't leave the country because he was on probation. Didn't get any jail time out of it. So it's like most possession, I think, is pretty lenient unless you're also doing other shit and it's a plea down. But the fact that it's just like done up that way is super fucking frustrating. And it's just like, charge people with what they're guilty of, man. Like, what's with all this fucking tinkling around bullshit? Especially if you're gonna plea down and not even like give up somebody bigger. Like I totally get it when it's like, oh, you're a guy on the corner. Well, fine. Like, tell me who gave you all the shit, and then we'll talk about not charging you for the sale.
Yeah.
Like I understand that kind of back and forth, but as far as I know, it was just my cousin just got a smaller charge because it was easier for the courts.
Yeah, I mean,
like, we could try to push for like 15 to 20, or you could take 5 to 8. And he's like, I'll take 5 to 8.
Yeah, I am. It's the thing where I just
do more than child porn distribution and creation. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like even in that context, it's just like I feel like his was maybe a little like he was at the time he was kind of quite involved in gangs. So I feel like for his sake, it was good for him to get the fuck out of the gang life because he did going to jail. He didn't wind up getting doubled down in jail, and he's gotten out and got pretty straight, which is good. But I just like don't know how it would have gone the other way. Fucking.
I mean, it's this thing where I uh, it's just this thing where I mean, when it comes to our children, like what once you become a parent, if you plan on becoming a parent,
Not working
kind
on
of
it yet, but want to.
yeah, your child is
Well,
kind of your reason to live from a certain point onwards,
yeah.
and to entertain the prospect of a giving some leeway to a person who might have mentored a potential child predator that might prey on your
Oh
kid,
man,
to
yeah,
me
like
is
reprehensible to the nth degree.
yeah,
like,
yeah,
like, yeah, like to me that guy is Warren. Like getting only 3 years. I don't know if that's like a common thing to happen because maybe it's super common and it's just like, oh, we just got another one of these fucks. But even in that case, I feel like, all right, cool. These people should all be subject to test study, and we need to understand what is causing these people to become this way. And if it's like genetic, if we can GMO it out of the population, or if it's some sort of a hormone issue in development, then maybe we can hormone them up the right way, or whatever the fuck it is. We need to figure it out because this shit should not be a thing.
yep. And
Like,
the the thing that really pissed me off, it was just back in the day in 2015, was the fact that the media and Win, they both kept shouting down opposition to the sexual education curriculum, because what was happening was Ben Levin got convicted um, in prison, for child porn. But then, quite soon after, the sexual education curriculum was being, and so the parents were concerned. Obviously, they were concerned, and so they protested against the sexual education curriculum in Ontario. And what happened was Kathleen Wynne, what she said was, I'll address your concerns about the sexual education curriculum. So just meet with me, right? So a group of parents, they formed an advocacy group, and then they met with Kathleen Wynne. And do you know what she did? She set up a meeting with them. And you know what they talked about? They talked about nothing.
intersectionalism.
No, they talked about nothing. They literally talked about nothing, because what she did was she basically sat in the room and refused to say anything for a certain period of time before going out to the walking out of the door and pretending to the media that they had a consultation.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And
What the hell?
that was also about the time that
Why would you
Messi
waive?
bullshit was going on, wasn't it?
Sorry, what was
That
going
was
on?
the Gomeshi trial. The fuck is Gomeshi's first name?
Gian.
Gian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not sure if they were happening concurrently. I forget now.
but that sounds like it was at least close to the same timeline. But that one drives me super fucking nuts because like you know much about that case at all?
A little bit. All I know is that the women that were going up
Basically trying to
and
commit
testifying,
basically
well,
commit entrapment. They're like, we all fucked him and really liked it, and then he
yeah,
wouldn't fuck any of us. So then we tried to set up this whole trap to get him arrested for assault.
exactly.
And it's like, and so that, and then yesterday, or maybe it was today, I was listening to the radio, and that got brought up as just like, as in relation to Harvey Weinstein or whatever the fuck his name is. They're like, oh man, like this is all like the Gian, like the Gameshi situation about how people apparently knew, and it's just like then they didn't know how to react once it came out, and it's like that, yeah, like sure, Gomeshi was a bit of a sexual deviant, or I'm sure some would call him a degenerate, but like
He is.
he's
Yeah.
clearly sexually an aggressive dude who found some chicks who were really into it.
Yeah.
It's not his fault. Like, what the fuck? Especially when he's like a national celebrity, like a national celebrity beloved by women and especially feminists who are probably his biggest fans as sexual degenerates.
Yeah. And the thing,
Just fucked.
yeah,
He's just like Harvey.
yeah.
What? I don't think he's just like Harvey. I don't really know the Harvey's situation that well, but it sounds a little different.
Yeah. I do think Harvey is probably a creep, though, just out of soul association with Bill Clinton. But
Yeah, definitely. He I've seen some stories and whatnot that definitely make me think he's a super creepy dude who has no concept of boundaries. I'm unsure to what degree I think he's a rapist. But you see the Terry Crews story?
no, I haven't.
You know who
Tell
Terry
me about it.
Crews is, right?
No, I'm not. No,
Okay.
I mean, why not?
He's like I'm pretty sure he played in the NFL for a year or two. He's an actor who's known as just being the giant jacked black guy.
Okay.
Uh, fucking guy could easily like fittest fucking dude you'll ever see. Anyway, he's like a 6'3", 6'4", 235, 240 pound black guy with 0% body fat. And he told some story about how he got groped in the dick a bunch
What?
by some dude, by some executive at a party. And he was like, it right in front of his wife and everything. And he was
Wow.
like, I almost like we had to leave because if we didn't, he was not going to stop and I was going to kill him and I didn't want to go to jail. And it was just like, what the fuck? Jesus, you like Terry Crews is being fucked with and you don't think there's some women being fucked with? There's some power plays? That's 150%
Power
happening.
plays.
Yeah. Like that's 150% happening. Like so you hear the stories about like I know one of the stories about the Harvey situation was more than just groping. Apparently he made somebody give him a blowjob or some shit. And to me, like, okay, at that point, yeah, you're using your power, and I'll call that rape. Okay, I don't mind calling that rape. But I feel like quite a bit. Like I feel like that story is the furthest extreme I've heard. And then there's like 15 stories of him inappropriately like grabbing people, which isn't good, but it's not rape. It's creepy as fuck, and like, but I'm not sure it should be construed as a crime in depending on context. But I feel like the one is like probably a rape, and then it's like, oh, we found 15 other women who said he did something bad, so they all got raped. So I don't know if that's the case, guys. Like, he's probably sexually criminal and should probably do some time in jail and should seek some therapy. But I don't think he is like the Bill Cosby story that you guys told a while ago. I'm not even 100% sure how true that one was.
Yeah, that was creepy.
Yeah, like totally fucked. But it's just the only stories I really saw on that were all like too easily similar. But at the same time, if you're a sexual predator with a strategy, they all would be similar. So it's like, well, either you guys are all just kind of stealing from each other, or fucking Bill's got a plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, after Harvey Weinstein said, I learned a lot from you and whatnot, I was like, what did you really learn?
I learned that eventually I might have got caught, and I did. And now it's okay because I'm Harvey.
Yeah.
Fuck. At least he lost his job. Like at least his brother had the guts to fire him after he was outed publicly to the world.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sad that that's a standard we need now.
Yeah. Honestly, I just find it so weird how the left seems to get a pass. And in this case, they didn't, but it's just, I don't know what it is. In California
you don't know that yet. Harvey's not gotten a pass right now, but just wait for the fallout to see where everything lands, because I am a little annoyed that I suspect he's going to turn out fine. At worst, he's going to have like probation and counseling. And it's like, I suspect he probably deserves more than that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Anyway, fucking, I gotta get going to sleep here soon.
Sure.
But, football season's almost over, which will free my schedule up a whole bunch if you want to get doing these more.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
You know, as
I feel
soon
like
as
we have a lot of subjects
I
we'd
get
like to cover
more and more courses out of the way.
beyond beyond just the current events that are going on, from players kneeling to actresses kneeling to whoever else is kneeling. Tim Tebow's not still doing that, I guess, but
There's just one little thing I kind of like to add on to that
sure.
issue.
Yeah.
One of the things that just really pissed me off while the whole Ben Levin thing was going on and the whole sexual education curriculum thing was going on was the fact that the media and Kathleen Wynne both kept accusing parents of being, you guys are kind of like just paraphrasing, but you guys are, so it's kind of like you're telling the entire parent population that they're evangelical Christians, in the sense that they don't tolerate anyone. They hate gays, they hate trannies, they hate, all these minority groups. And that's exactly why they don't want the kids learning about that stuff. Well, Kathleen, your deputy education minister was just, convicted, not accused, convicted of the distribution and the counseling of sexual assault on children. To be concerned.
It's the projection. It's people who do ill feel guilty about it, and to like morally vindicate themselves, they have to project their sin onto others. That's why that's the whole reason why homophobic priests are taking it up the ass. So when you get a intersectional movement where transgressors, to Christianity, the transgressors were colloquially Satanists, and then people would break it down and be like, it's the sodomites that are Satan's spawn, or whatever the fuck. But for Christians, it was always the Satanists that were the transgressors. They're the evil enemy. So, but there aren't really that many Satanists, and most people think of them as a joke. So the whole narrative is sort of a joke. But with the intersectionalists, the transgressors are labeled with pejorative soup, and nobody likes to be a pejorative. The pejoratives they use are a set of descriptors that nobody wants to be, and everyone fears being labeled with. So it's effective. Nobody gives a fuck about being called a Satanist because it's ridiculous. But if somebody calls you racist, no, I'm not. I'm defensive about it. Somebody calls me sexist. No, fuck you. You get defensive about it. It's a pejorative. It's a transgressive term that works, and that's what's so dangerous about them, because it forces their would-be opponents who don't know better, who don't realize what it is they're arguing against, to just kind of capitulate with their demands, because it's like, oh shit, I don't want to be called a racist. This minority is calling me a racist. And it's like, that's because they're a racist.
Yeah. And
incidentally.
Problem is I genuinely don't think that the Trudeaus or the Wins of the world have any sort of remorse or any guilt.
No, I think they don't have principles. The intersectional, well, not the intersectional, but it is, but because it's a Marxist system, they don't care. Principles build things. Sometimes they build shitty things if they're shitty principles, but principles build things. And the whole communist narrative, the whole hero's journey, the whole thing of destruction, where it's to deconstruct everything, it doesn't build anything. And that's the entire problem with it. So
it's the design of it is the very destruction of
whatever it even could build.
Yeah.
It destroys whatever is around it, and whatever it is that replaces whatever that was necessarily has to be destroyed by the fact of it being a thing. And it's like, well, okay, so we're just in an endless cycle unless I can convince you that I'm not the transgressor, even though we just need a generation of people to not give a fuck about being called Satanists, except now it's racist, sexist, homophobic. Like that's why that's the entire reason Milo Yiannopoulos is so popular and successful, is because he doesn't give a fuck about being called those terms, because his demographics literally advertise to the identitarians that he's not those things, but they'll still accuse him of those things, therefore becoming a paradox.
Yeah, and I mean, it's this
ideologies allow paradoxes to exist. A paradox illustrates that their ideology isn't right. It's like their narrative's wrong if paradoxes are around.
And what was I going to say about it? There's I always like to call Kathleen Wynne the Hillary Clinton who is Hillary Clinton but did it better, in the sense that
it's because she's a minority. She should play that card instead of just the vagina card, because women kind of resent that.
And she's the confirmed lesbian. Confirmed.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, she is. She used to have a husband. This
you know,
in my
what?
opinion,
in 10 years or so, like when I get into politics, I don't know if I'm pretty confident I'll at least try to get into politics at some point.
Yeah, me too.
If the identitarian thing is still super popular, I'll make out with a dude for some votes.
Well, go ahead, man. I'll probably be pandering to a bit of a different demographic, but if you want, you can try to do that.
I'd be pandering to whatever demographics available. Like,
that's true. You gotta win.
Who the fuck was it? Guy with a sweet beard, Gavin.
I thought you were going to say Sargon.
No, he's got a pretty good beard too, though. Yeah. Gavin, there's a guy named Gavin, right? Who's his?
Yeah, no, I'm very familiar
Irish
with him.
Name. Anyway, fucking.
Big fan.
Yeah, he didn't he make out with some Canadian conservative at some event to say fuck Islam?
I'm not sure. I thought he kissed Milo Yiannopoulos in the aftermath of the Orlando shooting.
Yeah, I know in the aftermath of the Orlando shooting. I thought it was a Canadian politician. No,
it was Milo Yiannopoulos.
I didn't think it was Milo for some reason. Maybe it was. Whatever.
Well, maybe he just fucked a bunch of dudes that day. I don't know.
Whatever. Yeah, whatever. I love. I like that form of protest of fuck you, especially when you're against the identitarians of the left who are like, oh, it's super great whenever people of the same sex do anything sexual in the slightest. And then it's like, I am your opponent. Watch me do what you love.
Yeah. Right in front of your eyes.
Literally to offend other people that you claim to speak for.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so what are you going to do? Are you going to get mad at me because I'm upsetting the Muslims? Are you going to praise me because I'm advertising this other group that you love? Like when you get this intersectional game of let's pretend we like this group more. Okay, good luck. Yeah. I'm just gonna play the game and beat you at it. Like, as long as you understand how the rules and the scoring works, I'm pretty sure you can just win the game, which is why Milo is being so successful.
Yep. And
did you see his interview on Australian news from today or yesterday?
I'm not sure today or yesterday.
Fucking hilarious.
Okay, I'm gonna see it.
They do like 2 or 3 minutes of just it's like 2-minute intro of him of just like cherry picked of the worst of how you could frame Milo, and then it's like 2.5 minutes of talking to Milo where he just like shits all over everything that they presented and everything they try to frame him as, even though he's like, yes, all of my quotes that you just showed were true. Challenge me on any of them. And it's just like, wait, you actually believe these horrible things we tried to quote line you on? He's like, yep. It's like, fuck yeah, way to be.
Yeah.
Like that's the new rule for the modern era is never capitulate. It used to be how much can you capitulate to the other side to kind of appease everyone, and the more people you can appease, the better chance you'll have. And now it's like the moment you appease anybody, you're weak. Never capitulate to anyone. Fuck them all.
Yeah. And I think this is why the whole idea about centrism is kind of declining. I mean, I've personally never, ever held any respect for centrism because I've always found it to be basically an excuse for keeping the status quo, and I never liked the status quo under any circumstance. But
I've seen it as like a pragmatic governance setup. Like I like centrism as a government just for being pragmatic in terms of hopefully assessing where each side may or may not be right. That's the ideal of it, but I think we've seen the practice of it sort of decay with this divisiveness, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Like, I feel like there needs to be Dave Rubin talks about it all the time. The alleged new center. I don't know if you've heard much about how he tries to frame that, but I think the new center.
I wasn't really convinced or drawn in by that. It's this what we call it.
I think
my view of
centrism would be, though, if you saw it framed the way that I do as a lefty. I think the new center is on the right, and I'm a fan of that, and I'm on the left. So as a guy who's on the right who doesn't like the middle, I feel like you should like this new center idea, because it's more on the contemporary political right, where we need to abandon this identity politics bullshit that's entirely hijacked the left. There's nothing the left that can fucking do or even talk on without addressing it. Even the people who don't like it have to address it. Like, we just gotta fucking let that ship sink. Get the fuck out of there. Everybody who's not that, go to the right, and there's a new center.
Well, the problem I'm having is that it's a workable model in the US, but it's not a workable model in Canada. In Canada, we still seem to have a complicit population that's willing to bow to the whims of the left. And in most cases... I hope that
changes next tax season. That's one thing, like, everyone's freaking out about Trudeau, like, oh my God, he's still got 2 more years left. We'll never survive 2 more years. But if he had an election today, he'd get reelected. And I think if he had an election anytime for the next probably year and a half, he's going to get reelected. But I don't think the weed legalization is going to go very smoothly. I think it's going to go pretty badly. And
he wants to make it government owned.
And he both wants to make it government owned and wants the provinces to do it for him. Which will take way the fuck longer, because the provinces want the federal government to do it for them. So they're both just trying to pass the buck to each other, and neither one of them wants to hold the hot potato. And so that's going to go horribly. The legalization is going to fucking suck. As much as I'd like it to go smoothly, it's not going to. And then once tax season hits and people who are like fucking barely paying their bills and have like another month and a half of rent to pay to the government, then more than they were expecting, I feel like that's going to make the next election a lot more about actual economics than it was last time, where it was largely a personality contest, where the only issue anyone really gave a fuck about Harper was on the wrong side of legalization.
Okay, so just a quick thing on the weed point. My stance on weed in its entirety. Okay, so personally, I don't. This shouldn't come as as a surprise, but I don't personally use weed. But and I don't really intend to anytime soon. I personally find drugs in general, or cigarettes even. I would even go that far.
Have you ever tried any of those things, or just no? You just have a negative view of them.
I refuse to. It's a blatant dogmatic refusal to, and it's not this idea that I try weed once and then my virginity is lost. It's not that. It's just the fact that I have no desire to take a drug that helps me to simply relax, if that makes any sense.
Okay, that's fair. I'm a fan of the I'm a fan of the everyone should experience everything once kind of position. So the dogmatically I'm never going to try it kind of bugs me a touch, but I at least can
wouldn't force it on anyone else. I'm forcing it on myself only.
Yeah. Like, and that I don't mind, but I do question it, where it's just like, really, you're not gonna, you don't have any interest in trying new experiences, just to see what it's like.
Well, I mean, it's just this thing where when how do I explain?
It's sort of like,
I've had people around me try.
I want to try skydiving. I'm not sure I want to make skydiving a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this thing where I've seen people who try weed. I've had friends who try weed. I still have them on my Facebook friends list, so don't worry if you've tried weed. I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen people who actually get quote unquote addicted to it. People who just can't stop talking about it. And they've actually come out mentally deranged. I'm not even kidding. I don't know what illnesses afflict them. I don't know where it comes from. They might be mixing it with something, but there are some people who've completely thrown their lives away to weed and other hedonistic pursuits like that. So I understand there is a balance to be struck. I've just seen too many people completely throw their lives to weed, and I'm thinking, you know what? I don't want any part of it.
I definitely see where you're coming from, and honestly, as much as I say like everyone should try everything once, actually no, I've tried this a few times, but coffee I dogmatically avoid because
fucking double standard.
I know, I'm a terrible human. Growing up, my family was like a ski family, so we'd go to the hill all the time when I was a little kid, and some of my earliest memories are my parents, like close friends, needing coffee to go to the hill and like needing coffee to start their day discernibly more than my friend right now who's a homeless crackhead. Like I know a homeless crackhead that I like grew up with who I've seen like several times in the last couple of years, and every time I see him, it like he'll eventually bring up that he needs to borrow $40 because $40 is the intervals that they buy their drugs in. But that guy is a more level, sane, less fucking addict-y person than the coffee drinkers I knew growing up. So like that's just always rattled me a lot. And I just see like so many people who are like, I can't get through the day without my coffee. I'm on like cup 4 right now. I'm like, it's fucking 10:30. Like what are you doing?
Yeah.
So that's always just kind of irked me.
Yeah.
Scared me off it.
So now that the whole world knows my stance on marijuana, I mean, that's really the extent of it. It's now that's my personal view on it.
Or is it like it's just any sort of use? It's not about the smoking. It's just any drugs and alteration of.
In terms of me taking it?
Yeah. It's about the psychological state changing or the physiological state changing, or it's the smoking. Like, is there anything in particular?
Sorry, are you asking me about my personal views on me personally trying it or other people trying it?
You personally, you seem to not really give a shit how other people try it. But if that's not right, feel free to correct that.
How to explain this? I have no desire to try them.
Okay, that's fine.
I actually don't.
Like
I catch it.
Let me frame it this way. Like, I invite you to a party and you have some desserts that have some weed in them. Scale of 1 to 10, how pissed are you?
I would rather people tell me beforehand.
If
I accidentally did it,
and I just like kind of don't click that you wouldn't want them, I just pretend it's that sort of scenario.
Well, I'm not sure, like if it's gonna be like, you know, one of these things where I take a bite of the brownie and I would actually taste the.
It definitely tastes a little different. I'm not sure you'd really notice. You might be like, these are some like, I wonder what else is in the like. What is a secondary flavor? I'm not sure if you'd like be put off by it, but it definitely does taste a little different. But when you eat it, you don't really feel the effects for like a half hour or more. So it'd be a good while where you could eat it and I'd be like, oh shit, dude, did you just eat a brownie? And you could probably tell me how pissed you are about it before you actually knew what it did to you.
Okay, so
I'm just sort of wondering what you'd be there.
Okay, so yeah, this is fun stuff. This is not. I don't get it. Okay, so I eat it, I swallow it, and I'm like, okay, this is a little
weird tasting brownie.
Weird tasting, perhaps, yeah, because I've never tried it. I would probably be pissed, but I wouldn't be Westboro Baptist Church pissed. I'd be more like.
You'd be like a 6 or a 7 or 10 kind of.
Why did you put in this, right? And then you'd say, oh, there's a little bit of marijuana, and then I would say, whatchamacallit, I wouldn't make a scene. I wouldn't cause a scene. I never cause scenes. I never do.
Okay.
When it comes to, if I'm in school and someone humiliates me in front of the teacher, I don't make a scene. I just sit there
Yeah.
completely stoically. Afterwards, or maybe even just during the time that I'm pissed, I would take you aside. Whoever, I would take you aside, and I would kind of like, I guess, whisper out my rage. I'm pretty quiet about my anger when it comes to stuff like that, because I don't think that people who are hurting me, take eating it should deserve to hear any of my rage.
Yeah.
But basically, I'd be like saying, why the fuck didn't you tell me this beforehand?
Yeah.
Why the fuck didn't you tell me this beforehand, you fucking idiot?
Yeah,
And
that's fair.
but beyond that, since it's
kind of
in my system,
already done.
Yeah, I would just if I felt inebriated, like, or if I actually felt actually sick, hypothetically speaking, I'd probably just head home and say thanks guys for the brownie or whatever, and then I just head home. That's it.
So, a thought occurred to me while you were telling your little reaction, and my advice to you is if anything similar to this ever happens somehow, my recommendation to you would be find a couple of the people at the party or a couple of friends and not at the party to play some video games with for a while or watch a movie and then fall asleep. Because when you eat weed, it gives you a different it gives you a body high, which is quite different. But it makes your sleep awesome for one. But it makes you feel really weird. And if you don't want to feel really weird, it can make people freak out a little bit. Like my girlfriend in particular happens to be type 1 diabetic. And she's consumed edible before, and to her it feels like a sugar drop, so she freaks right the fuck out because she's worried that she's gonna die.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, that's understandable. I guess you won't be doing this again. But most people wouldn't have that association with the feeling because most people aren't diabetic. But I'm sure that people have feelings that are similar where they are not a fan of how they are feeling, especially if it isn't deliberate in the first place.
Yeah.
But it's my advice to you would just pretty much be like, find something to do until you're tired enough to sleep, preferably with friends.
Yeah. Yeah. So then people don't draw dick pics on my face or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's not even the end of the world either.
Yeah, that's true. You could just wash them off if they're erased.
Anyway, I gotta go fucking fall asleep here so I can.
Yeah, whatchamacallit? Sorry, whatchamacallit? Yeah, sorry. So those would be. I'm just quickly wrapping this up. So those would be my personal views. My as to my political views on weed, I would prefer that. Like, I do think that there should be certain laws regarding marijuana. Like, if you're on the job and you're operating a machine, you shouldn't be high.
Like, kind of treated like alcohol, right? Like,
yeah, and cigarettes. But
cigarettes, I don't know though. Cigarettes, you get smoke breaks. I don't know if I should be getting toke breaks or beer breaks.
Well, yeah, that's true. Just the stricter elements of alcohol laws and tobacco laws. But it's this thing where, this is a topic I can get into on another time as well. But it's this thing where, personally, I prefer to keep, for the most part, illegal, except for certain after you get past a certain age and whatnot, just normal laws. But I would rather that it either be illegal and enforced only to actually protect the public, not just go after random users or users at a party.
Or to justify a police force budget.
Yeah, but if a government were to legalize it, I'd rather it be fully legalized in the sense that, it falls under the cigarette and, alcohol laws, like similar laws like that. But my main problem with legalizing weed, and this is a big problem for me, is the fact that we have a universal healthcare system. I'm actually fine with mixing weed with other substances. I know a lot of people aren't, but me personally, I just find, if you're going to use a substance, you're going to mix it. A lot of people just are going to do that. So I'd much rather just be consistent and just legalize it. But that being said, I don't want to pay for. I don't want to pay for someone who. And
I would
this is my
agree with
attitude
you,
for
except I
universal
don't
healthcare.
think I would agree with you, except I don't think that legalization will change usership rates. Like I
That's
think it
not
might
my
change it
concern.
but
I
if
just
they're
don't want to
already
pay for
using
it.
it now illegally, they're still on Canadian public health care, so we're still already paying for it right now.
Yeah, and my
If
whole caveat has always been,
if legalization reduces use, which I've seen arguments for because of the whole like prohibition propagates theory.
I think it only works to a
If
certain
legalization
degree. But
if it happens to reduce rates, then our public healthcare system is going to save money by legalization. Like if you're fiscally conservative and want to spend less money on healthcare, then I feel like that would be a good thing.
yeah, but I'm pretty consistent on the healthcare thing, where I actually, in an ideal world, I'd rather see a privatized system, fully privatized system. And
Okay, we'll
with
have to get
that,
into
I
that
would.
later though, because
I mean, I would be almost fine with complete drug legalization across the board if it were not for the fact that we did not have a public healthcare system. But I'm just being a private. I'm a privatizer. That's what I am.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that one later because I have some thoughts on that because I think I have a pretty good fiscal conservatism argument for public health care, but not a monopolized healthcare system. Anyway, I gotta get going here.
Yeah, me too.
But great talking, man. Well,
yeah,
hopefully be able to keep this going more consistently.
Exactly. Awesome. Have a good night.
You too.